We're graced today to have Mr. Dave Riggs. He's on the National Board of Directors. He's with Eurofins. He's the president of the SFA Labs Inc. group. And Dave, I've just changed the slide if you want to go over your credentials here and just let me know when you want to change slides. Just for everybody know, Dave is out of the country right now. We've had some technical issues, so he's called in. So I'm going to be we're going to move the slides for him. Mr. Riggs, go ahead.
All right. Thank you, Richard, and welcome ACIL guests. Apologies for some of the technical difficulties, but hopefully everyone can hear me okay. A little bit of background information on me. I'm a 40-year industry veteran with a lot of experience in hands-on lab operations. I've worked with Dow Chemical, Mitsui, EAG Labs, which is actually a part of Eurofins, a company called PSC in St. Louis, and the past 9 years with Eurofins US Foods. So really my track record is practical safety improvements across all testing, inspection, certification areas. And really focus on practical improvements, things that you can do as a laboratory supervisor, executive, or operator to improve the performance of your labs. This slide deck was developed by Chad Smith. He's the Eurofins US Food Quality, Environmental, Health, and Safety Director. Use his permission. My email address is at the bottom. So if you want to email me with questions at the end of the workshop, I'm happy to respond. All right, can we go to the next slide? All right. So in terms of the purpose of the guidance, really we want to emphasize proactive workplace safety. And the whole idea is to engage our employees in this process every step of the way with practical, common sense things that anyone up and down across the organization can benefit from. So now we're going to talk about the big 9 safety risks, and these apply to any laboratory. So the first is abrasions, strike points, pinch points, or getting caught. The second is chemical and biological agents. Number 3 is compromised equipment, and that includes glassware. And we want to be on the lookout for chipped or cracked glassware. Obviously, electrical power can cause a shock or electrocution. Ergonomic, so that's going to be, bending and body position, strains. Noise, loud noise, obviously can be a problem, cause deafness. Obstructed or compromised walkways, and that includes confined spaces, bumping your head, bending over, narrow walkways. Our 8th is sharps, so that could be blades, needles. And the finally is thermal, and that can be hot or cold. And many times we have to handle things like dry ice or liquid nitrogen, which can cause a nasty burn just as bad as a thermal burn. So first up is for abrasions, strike, and pinch points or catch hazards. So I don't have a picture of what good looks like, but most people know you don't want to have exposed moving parts or sharp edges. It's very important that there aren't overhead hazards like cranes or overhead equipment. There could be ramps or things that could drop down like on a rail car or a tank wagon. We want to make sure all the machine guards are in place. We want to make sure that shelving is secure so that if someone doesn't try to climb up on a shelf, doesn't pull over ourselves. And of course, we don't want any protruding rods or obstructions, things that are sticking out. That could be a shin, kicker, or something that poke you in the body. All right. So the next is chemical and biological hazard. So a good, low risk situation is where all the proper labels are in place and chemicals and agents are stored properly. We want to make sure we're using our appropriate PPE, gloves, eye protection, lab coats, steel-toed boots, long pants. We don't want loose clothing that can, catch on rotating equipment. We want to make sure that all bottles and containers are closed and tightly sealed. We want to make sure that if spills do happen, we have spill kits available so that the spill doesn't spread and get into a drain or get into an electrical connection in the case of flammables. And finally, we want to make sure we have proper use of biosafety cabinets. So for corrosive agents like acids and bases, we want our blue grounded cabinets. In the case of flammable solvents, they'll be the yellow cabinets. We want to make sure they're closed, sealed, properly ventilated, properly grounded, and they don't have leaky bottles inside. So there's just like a little safety closer on the right. This is something that's useful. Feel free to take a screenshot. This is a Eurofins one, but feel free to replace it with your company's logo on there. Remember, there's only one pair of eyes. We want to protect them. The proper safety glasses are required in all laboratory areas. We want to make sure that we've got prescription glasses if they're not safety glasses, and let's not touch our eyes with a contaminated finger, because then you can get acid, dust, or contaminants into your eye, and that kind of defeats the purpose of safety glasses or monogoggles. So this is compromised equipment, and sadly, I see this way too often. I see equipment that's not intact. It's not always functional. There's frayed wires. There's cracks. There's rust. There's leaks. It's old. It's broken down. We didn't have the maintenance budget. We all know the excuses. We've all seen those before. Or there could be broken items that have been removed from service, or they're tagged out. So the thing I want folks to look out for is always inspect your glassware. So every time you take a flask or a test tube or something, take a quick check, and then also after it's washed and removed from the dishwasher, hand wash before you put it back in the rack, inspect it, make sure they're not cuts or cracks in there. Substitute plastic whenever possible, but in some cases you have to use glass. And obviously, do not pick up or handle broken glass. And if it is there, use a brush and dispose of it with broken glassware where your sharps go. Use a proper disposal container. You don't want the sharp glass to cut through and cut the next person. Obviously, wear appropriate hand and eye protection. Put it in the proper container, and never put your hands into the container, because that's just like a bear trap waiting to happen. So these are all common sense. I haven't probably said a single thing that any of you didn't already know, but if we continue to go over these with our staff, it will increase awareness, change behavior, and hopefully develop good habits and eliminate bad habits. So this should be electrical hazards. So what good looks like: we have safe wiring and outlet uses. We didn't pull the plugs off the ground wires. There's no frayed cords. Let's not have 6 things all plugged into one plug that's overloading the circuit, and the circuit's kicking out all the time. Obviously, we want ground fault circuit interrupters if it's a wet area. And in terms of examples, we want to be very careful with extension cords. If they are, we want to make sure they're heavy duty extension cords, and only the minimal distance necessary. And also be careful with power strips. There's an opportunity for those to become overloaded and cause an electrical shock or a spark. So obviously, remove any cords not in good condition. Be very careful not to use extension cords as a substitute for permanent wiring, and dispose of anything that's does not have all the appropriate electrical safety features. So now we're on to ergonomic hazards. So we want to do things that minimize physical strain. So we want to, bend from the knees, use a good upright position. When walking, use 3 points. So 2 feet on the ground. If you can anchor on a handrail or something stable going up and down stairs. Obviously, be careful of slippery surfaces. You want good posture where we're sitting upright and with a good, desk chair, not slouching. Use adjustable chairs or benches. Some people like to have a standing work area that sometimes increases blood flow and alertness. We want to avoid lifting out of the strike zone where we're, bending or have an opportunity to tweak a back or strain a, hamstring or something. And also be careful on task rotation. It's very easy if you're twisting or torquing, reaching into awkward positions to create a muscle strain, which could become a recordable incident or become, permanently disabled if it's a serious back or neck issue. Noise hazard, pretty straightforward. We want to make sure that things are acceptable noise level. I believe that's 85 decibels. We want to use hearing protection. That can be earplugs or ear muffs. Make sure there's signs posted where there are noise areas. It could be an intermittent noise area where maybe a truck passes through, or train traffic, or if loud noises are turned on and off with blowers and fans and things of that nature. And you never should have to shout. If you're shouting, that's a warning sign that we should put in noise dampening or take other engineering measures. Employees should never have to shout to hear each other communicate. So now we're talking about obstructed or compromised walkways. So we want to make sure we have clear walkways and emergency exits. And that includes not putting things in front of like electrical panels. Oftentimes I see boxes and things stacked up, blocking the way of fire extinguishers or walkways or the janitor's closet. We don't want any cords or spills, obviously. Those are trip hazard, could cause a flame or something. And be sure there are visible floor markings, especially if there's a step up or a step down or things are dimly lit. So always be alert for icy or wet surfaces. Clean up spills immediately. And always keep areas clean and free of debris. So now we're on to sharps hazards. So we want to always properly store and dispose of things. That could be scalpels, that could be needles, that could be injectors, and should be labeled in the sharps bins. There should be nothing loose in there. They should have a plastic cap on them using safety covers. So again, always look out for blades, sharp edges, serrated edges, even sharp glassware. Use cut resistant glove, but remember, even cut resistant gloves are not cut proof. They're just cut resistant. So don't use that to, charm yourself into thinking you're not at risk. And try to substitute safer cutting tools. There's box cutters out there that you can't really cut themselves. They have a thing where you can only reach under and slice, in a direction away from yourself. So, don't keep razor blades laying around, X-Acto knives, needles. Those are all no-nos, just accidents waiting to happen. One of the top reasons I've seen in the last 40 years for injuries. Now we get on to thermal hazards. And remember, that could be hot or cold. So we want to make sure we always mark any containers that could have a hot surface or cold, like liquid nitrogen, CO2, dried ice. We always want to use our PPE and not, we want to use gloves that have thermal protection. Make sure there's labels say hot or cold, and use the appropriate types of gloves for hot or cold. And whenever possible, use metal tongs for transfer, especially with like hot solvents or with a cold, ice cold decanter or dewar with liquid nitrogen or dry ice. Remember, materials can be superheated in like a microwave oven, but they may not boil over. So you don't always know that something's really hot. The same is true when it comes out of an autoclave. It may not look like it's hot, but it could be, over 200 degrees Fahrenheit, nearly 100 degrees Celsius. Remember, hot glass looks just like cold glass. So when in doubt, use thermal protection. Again, let's talk about dry ice and liquid nitrogen. Remember, asphyxiation could happen. I've seen cases where the ventilation was turned off, dry ice was opened, and basically became an oxygen-deprived environment where people became lightheaded. Fortunately, they were to leave the area. But remember, in a sealed container, warming cryogenics creates an explosion hazard. So liquid nitrogen or other cold fluids, liquid helium, could leak out and cause asphyxiation, or could cause overpressure. So be cognizant of those risks. So this is a hazard hunt, all right? So this is something that I try to do with all my employees. We actually do it weekly, and then the group leaders each day have one person talk about just identify a simple hazard that they were able to proactively identify and mitigate. All right, we're not always on our heels waiting for a response to the next injury, but if we're on our toes, be on the lookout for the next accidents. That's great. We actually will play a game, and if we identify something that someone else maybe could have been doing or think about doing at risk, we kind of keep score of that, and then people have the most score, they get a drawing, for a free prize, a gift card or jumper cables or something. We've had some fun with that, and really everyone kind of almost turns it into a game where they're just thinking safety 24/7. And these apply to at home as well. Just because you leave the lab and go home, there's risks on the road, there's risks at home, there's risks with your kids, and many times the risks at home are more serious than the risks at work. So always be thinking proactively about identifying hazards and mitigating them. So you should identify hazards during your inspections. Gemba walks, that's a name of where you basically walk through something, identify, hey, we got lucky, we missed something, could have happened, but let's think about it for next time so that, because eventually, safety is kind of like father time. It's undefeated. It'll always catch up with you if you take shortcuts. So usually if you're thinking something wrong, it usually is wrong. And say something about it. Question it. Just because you saw something and got lucky, the next person might not be so fortunate. So be proactive. It's perfectly acceptable. It's not personal. It's about, hey guys, let's mitigate risk. Let's report it. And let's all get smarter to minimize the risk of safety incidents in the workplace. Again, Eurofins, we have a QR code that's it's no names. It's, if you want to put your name, that's fine. But if not, just you report something. There's no risk of, repercussions. And we found that that's been a good way to really improve our safety culture. So really, this is a summary. So this is Heinrich's triangle. It's really the safety pyramid. So if we start at the bottom, if we have, let's say, 100 unsafe acts, there's probably going to be 50 near misses. Now, actions that are unsafe don't always cause immediate harm, but again, it's a numbers game. Eventually, the unsafe acts will become a near miss. A near miss occurs when something goes wrong, but it didn't cause an injury or even a first aid case or damage, but it serves as a warning to address potential hazards. So near misses should always be documented and communicated to your peers or a group leader or a safety manager. Next, we get to a minor injury. Again, a certain percentage of unsafe acts and near misses will lead to a minor injury. A minor injury might be a cut, a bruise, and shows a gap in safety practice that, if ignored, could lead to a more serious incident. Next, we get to the next highest level. So level 2, lost time or serious injury. These are injuries significant enough to require medical treatment or missed work, underscoring the impact of unresolved safety issues. Maybe it's a workman's comp, but even if you get workman's comp, maybe you'll get 60 or 70 cents on the dollar. You're not going to be able to feed your family, and it's going to put, pressure on you. So there's a financial penalty to the employee and obviously, the company, and then OSHA's there. Nothing good comes from safety incidents. And finally, the worst case, in a certain percentage of the time, fatalities will occur. That's the worst case outcome, in which safety management really aims to prevent by addressing the risk at every lower level. Sadly, I've been involved in my time when I was with Dow Chemical, not directly, but with colleagues in the same department where we did have fatalities. It's to this day, I don't sleep at night when you sleep about those. So you never want that to happen. And the way to focus on things is focus on mitigating the unsafe acts. And when the near misses occur, speak up, talk to your colleagues, let your supervisor know, let a safety manager know, so that engineering controls, administrative controls, and permanent corrective actions can be taken to lower the risk of safety. And it'll benefit you, your colleagues, your family, your coworkers, industry colleagues. I always tell folks, raise your hand if you're not for safety. It's safety saves lives and quality saves jobs. So safety is very, very important. And really, if you don't have a safe work environment, there's really no point in proceeding with testing or inspection or laboratory work. Okay, so this is just some, I say questions and discussion. So I list the 9 topics. This picture on the right, you can see there's hot surfaces and place where people can bend in and reach in and a lot of things. So that's a walking safety hazard. But there is at least yellow tape on there to warn it, because you could have a bump your head on it, or you could reach in and there's rotating surfaces and hot surfaces to be careful of. Let's go to the next slide, please. Well, you get one more. You get an arrow where it shows the pinch points. But go one more slide advance. Sorry. Go one more, Richard. All right, this next one. Sadly, I see this all too often in laboratory environments. You got about 20 plugs plugged in, wires everywhere. Hot surfaces. So hit the button again. You'll see again. This is an electrical one. So let's go to the next slide. So next slide. This is a hot plate. This is a hot plate with a flask that contains flammable solvents. So that's never good. So in that case, we have worry about thermal burns at the bottom. So that's obviously something we want to be on the lookout for. And then hit one more click there, and you should see an autoclave. Yep. And also you can see another hot plate that inserts there. So those are all things to be on lookout for. Autoclaves, hot plates, those are a high instance of safety incidents in my 40-year experience. All right, let's go to the next slide. So this is a real life picture. So compromised equipment, someone's got a fan in there with the exhaust because the mass spec or the HPLC is overheating. There's a million wires back there, electrical shock and everything else. Computer on the floor, things that can leak. The window probably leaks. It's there's too many items to list as to what the issue is there. So if that's happening at your lab, I strongly encourage you to think about re-engineering things. So hit the next slide. You'll see an arrow on there where it just talks about compromised equipment. And then there's in the upper corner, you got a hot plate in the back corner, and someone reaches into the hood. Looks like that hood's had a lot of acids and bad things spilled on it. So waiting for Freddy Krueger to jump out of that one. All right, we'll go to the next slide. So this one here is got the U-line picture there. There's something sharp there where I think they're feeding in a shredder. So that's just, waiting to tear up somebody's fingers there. So we want to be really careful and make sure guards are in place and we're not feeding something in, or where someone's tie or, loose clothing or something could reach in there and catch and pull someone in and cause an injury. So there again, you have sharp surfaces there. And then next slide, there's a scalpel and razor blade, the cutaway knife. So again, sometimes those have to be used, but they should be only used as a last resort, and should always have plastic guards or covers on them when not in use or when transporting to and from the area. So only at time of use, probably in like a glove box or something where you can't cut yourself, always cutting away from the body, so that you don't cause a finger cut around your body. All right, so this is kind of the thank you slide. So again, my email address is there. Since this is an ACIL sponsored event and I'm on the membership board with Richard, we want to encourage everyone to check out acil.org. If you haven't already, please consider joining our November 4th through 6th annual meeting in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We'll have 3 days of very valuable and informative workshops. I know the first workshop is on dietary supplements, but we'll have topics on safety and vendors and new equipment, great speakers with all kinds of common sense best practices you can employ at your laboratory and other testing inspection certification areas. So please check out acil.org. You can reach out to myself or Richard Bright if you want more information on the annual meeting. With that, I'll go ahead and take any questions.
Dave, first of all, thank you. Thank you very, very much. I've kept the last slide up there. I'll open it up now. Dave's opened it up to questions. There may be one in the chat box here. Let me go there. Will this presentation be available for download? I have recorded the session here. Dave, you just got to let me know whether it's appropriate to share or not after this, okay?
Yeah, can you go ahead and take the PowerPoint and just save it as reduced file PDF?
Yes, absolutely. As long as you're
We
okay to
can't we
share.
can't send it as a PowerPoint. If it's a PDF, again, people can still snip the little warning signs because it's a Eurofins branded. It's used with permission, so you can download and save a PDF copy, and go ahead if you want. Send that to all the people that were on this, and that way people could just do a reply all if we want to have like a text group where we could share ideas or something. And if it gets, I guess, out of hand, people could just delete or remove from the distribution. But that'd be
Wonderful.
my recommendation. Just download the PowerPoint as a reduced
Yep.
file size PDF, and then you can share it with the. Looks like we have 20 people,
Yep.
myself, Richard, and 18 others. They could have a PDF copy of the slide deck.
Very good. Thank you very, very much. Very generous. Um, Folks, we've got a couple that maybe have unmuted, so feel free to either raise your hand or just shout out, or alternatively, in the chat room, any questions for Dave, or any comments or questions for the rest of the group here. Um, anybody want to jump in with a question or a comment? There was a question that came in from prior to this. Do any of our member labs clients require subscription to safety databases like ISN, Avetta, and Veriforce to do business? I think we may have discussed this maybe on the last call, but does anybody want to weigh in on that in relation to that?
Well, Richard, this is Dave Riggs with Eurofins. We do subscribe to some of those databases. But I think there are, oftentimes company by company or even state specific regulations about sharing of data outside of a company, because there are obviously HIPAA concerns. We don't want saying that, Joe Smith got a finger cut because, that. So that is probably going to be managed on a company by company basis. But again, Eurofins does subscribe to some public databases where we receive information, but that information is handled usually by our safety or human resources department as far as re- reporting out to organizations like OSHA or EPA. And again, that's having to be fully compliant with all applicable regulations. So I would encourage everyone to talk to your safety manager or your human resource department so as to not violate confidentiality or any HIPAA laws.
Any other questions, folks, on anything? For Dave, for myself, for the peer group? Anybody going through an issue right now that they wanted to share? Maybe get some guidance. You're all in the safety space here, all peers, and safety is obviously priority for everybody. So helping each other is part of the key of this forum. First of all, Dave, thank you very, very much. I know how much time it takes to put these presentations together. Great job. Truly appreciate your passion for safety as well as for ACIL. Thank you. To everybody else on the call here, thank you. We're not going to set a date for the next one. What I want to do is please send feedback to me in relation to any at my email address in relation to any topics you would like to see or whether you'd be willing to present on any topics. I've just put my email in the chat room. Please send me ideas, and then we'll send out another announcement in promotion.